Welcome to video 2 of month 6 for your Harmony block of the month. In video number 1, we taught you how to take floral shapes or leaf shapes and turn them under to create turn under edge applique. But there's a couple more components that you need, and so this short video is going to show you how to create fun bias stems so that we can connect the flowers and the leaves together. Going down the center, we have a turned under edge 1/2 inch stem. Going through the two sides, we have a turned under edge 3/8 of an inch stem. Note at this point, do not start cutting anything from Nancy's instruction page. The cuts that we have to make to create the ones that we use with this, Nancy uses bias bars, and we're actually going to use bias tape makers in order to use ours. So the width of your strips need to be different than what your original pattern has. So you have a fat quarter of green dapple this month in your kit, okay? And it's a fat quarter, so here's the bias edge, here's the edge where it was actually cut. On your rotary rulers, you might have wondered how come sometimes you have these diagonal lines. If you can find the 45-degree diagonal line, and I'm turning this backwards because I have to when I lay it down in here, but there you can pretty much see that's 45 degrees. If you lay that at the top of your fat quarter, you'll notice that now anytime you cut a strip, it's on the perfect bias or the perfect 45-degree diagonal, and that makes these little bias bars much more comfortable when you go to use them and sew them. So what we're going to do is create two sizes. Now, I told you that my cuts are different than Nancy's. For the 1/2 inch big stem, which you need 4 because you have 4 blocks, you will use this 1/2 inch guy. And the width of the strip needs to be twice as much as what you want it to be. So if we want this to be a 1/2, these strips are cut 1 inch. I'd cut like maybe 3 of them, okay, and see if maybe you can't get the 4 out of there. You have plenty of fabric to do whatever. Now with the little fellas, okay, we're going to cut a 3/4 inch bias strip, and we're going to end up making that 3/8, okay, because 3/8 when it's turned under is 1/2 of 3/4, okay. And these you'll probably need to cut back for. These of course need to be shorter. These are, I finished cut these 8 inches, and I finished cut these 14 inches before I actually put them into the block. All right, so you have your iron nice and hot. I'm going to go ahead and create a little bit, one of the larger ones, so in case you have a problem seeing this, might be easier to see. This is Best Press, which she did mention in your pattern. Best Press is a great starch alternative. What it does is make these nice and stiff so that it's much easier for us to stitch them when we get started. What I want you to do is to actually hold on to one end of it, leave this fella on here, leave the diagonal here because he's going to help us when we go to put it through the bias tape maker. And we're just going to very carefully spritz all the way down so this gets relatively wet. Okay, now I'm a lefty, so I'm putting it down this way. Most of you who are right-handed will be putting it over this way because that's the way you like to pick up the iron. And what you're going to do is insert that dry end that we held through the bias tape maker, and you notice how you can see it right there in the opening. Take a pin and just push it right on through until you can hold on to it. And sometimes it gets stuck, so you have to like play with it a little bit. And it will come on through. And then keep this one, you know, kind of evenly spaced here. And it only goes in and it kind of curves down and around. Now I'm going to turn this over just a little bit so you can see what's happening on the wrong side. Notice how it is turning those edges under absolutely perfect. Well, we want those edges to stay pressed down. So I'm going to lay the strip back down on our ironing board. And I'm going to push it back a little bit and have the iron just make a nice hard crease. Then I'm going to take a pin and actually pin it to the ironing board. And then, Mr. Cameraman, make sure that you can see what my iron is doing now. Okay, the actual iron is staying right at the point of the bias tape maker And I'm just gently scooting down, watching very slowly, okay? Watching to make sure that this is evenly spaced. And you just continue on down the entire strip. The iron is actually butting up against the bias tape maker. It's kind of like magic. I'm going to move it down a little bit because I ran out of space. And move slowly because you're not going to burn your fabric unless you sleep on it. Okay, and I'm pretty much done all that I need to do. What we then have created, when we turn this over, it's beautifully turned to the center, and this is exactly 1/2 an inch. That is going to be a 14-inch piece when we finish cutting that, so you'll have, you know, some spare left over. So you're going to do this. I would go ahead and just cut 4 of these. These you're going to need, you might as well go ahead and maybe cut 6. They have to be shorter, so, or cut as you go if you want to, because these fellas are, they finished out, I put 8 inches on there, and these fellas, the wider ones, end up being 14. And then we are ready now to go ahead and show you how to take the flowers, the leaves, and the stems and do the Terrified Quilter stitch on your sewing machine. That's the next video up. Thank you. Bye-bye.